New contract, new dynasty value. How do these paydays impact their dynasty value? Let's get into it.
Let's go.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. I'm your host Calvin Timms, and I've got a fun one here today. We're going to be going over the Jordan Love and Tua Tagovaiola contracts. They got paid over the weekend. Big paydays, number one and number two highest paid players in the NFL right now. What does that mean for their dynasty value? We're going to dig into some of their stats from last year, whether or not we believe that they should, maybe this should reflect on them in a positive light or negative light. And, whether or not you should be going and sending out offers for Tua and Jordan Love. But before I do that, if you can, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a comment down below. Leave a like on the video. I just got done watching the whole Mr. Beast fraud video, which is absolutely wild on YouTube. It's a long watch. It's like an hour long. And it's funny because, I always hear about this guy, Mr. Beast, right? And if you guys have watched Mr. Beast, maybe comment down below if you've ever watched his videos. But I always thought, man, it's crazy. I've never watched this guy, and he came up from nowhere, to be one of the biggest subscribers and all that stuff out of nowhere. I never understood how. And this video breaks it down very well on how he kind of scammed his way to the top and a lot of the tricks of the trade that these bigger YouTube channels really do to get subscribers and everything like that, which is absolutely wild because I am not a scummy person. I would never have thought to do a lot of stuff, like fake subscription giveaways and stuff like that. Like, oh, if you subscribe to the channel, for 10 people that subscribe to the channel, I will give you a free Samsung S4. This is not real. Don't just subscribe for that. But that's what they would do. And then they would never actually send out the phones, which is wild. Absolutely wild. So, we're building this channel on your guys' backs, and we do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, thank you for checking this video out. We're going to do some Dynasty content here today. Training camp's in full swing, and it's a fun time. But we can only grow with your guys' help. I'm not going to be doing scam giveaways and all that stuff. I need you guys to subscribe to the channel, and if you like this content, help it grow. Tell somebody about it, like the video, leave a comment. It just helps us out, and we do appreciate that. If you do like this and you like me, you can follow me over on Twitter at TDC_Calvin. You can find the podcast at FF After Dark. So that said, we've been pumping out the content, so hopefully you guys do enjoy the content. Not every video is going to be for every person, and that's totally fine. So if you guys do find one that you do like, I'm asking you guys personally, if you can comment down below, it just helps me out, and it gets me feedback from you guys. I like to hear from you guys as well, so leave a comment down below. All right, that said, who do we want to talk about first? We'll talk about Tua because he got the contract first, and Tua is a little bit lower in the dynasty value as of right now, but Tua over the weekend signed a 4-year, $212 million contract extension, $42 million signing bonus, fully guaranteed, 167 fully guaranteed. Woo. Average salary $53 million. He was very shortly the highest paid quarterback for a couple of hours there until Jordan Love signed his, and he surpassed him just barely on the highest paid. But, this year it was a very smart move. They backloaded his contract pretty heavily into next year and the years down the road. They have a massive out with in just a couple years here, and I'll talk about that. But the way the contract kind of breaks down is that in this year, he's only a $10 million cap hit. Next year, he's a $59 million cap hit with $83 million dead cap. So he's guaranteed on this team for this year and next year. In 2 years, he's a $63 million cap hit. And this is where it gets very interesting. And I wanted to point out the contract details to you guys because of this fact. In 2026, he's $63 million cap hit. He's $25 million dead cap, meaning they save $40 million if they cut him in 2026. Now, if he's playing up to his contract and everything, obviously they're not going to do that. But even further, in 2027, they have an out in his contract that they can cut him. He'd be $45 million against the cap in 2027 with only a $16 million cap hit, dead cap charge. So they'd save another 30 million or whatever that year. And then the last year is just wild. $58 million cap hit, 8 million dead cap. So you save 50 million bucks in that last year. Now, obviously, the cynicist in me says that, oh, it's just to protect themselves from Tua being underwhelming, right? If Tua can't step up in the big games and he's not the guy to lead the Dolphins to the promised land in the playoffs and everything, they've kind of safeguarded themselves in 2026 that they could move on from him as needed. They could trade him, they could do whatever they need to and get out from his contract. It's clearly by the agent set up this way to incentivize a restructure, especially in 2027. Obviously only 16 million dead cap that year, but 45 million against the cap in 2027. It's designed to spread that out over the next couple of years. You take that 45 million, you sign him to a new 5-year extension, whatever it is, you kick the rest of that money, the guaranteed money down the road, and you just save some money on the cap in 2027, 2028. That's what the contract was probably designed to do. But I do find it interesting that they left that opening in 2026 that they could save $40 million if they were to move on from Tua. Now, you look at the stats of Tua Tagovaiola over the last couple of years, and for Dynasty and for fantasy football, it's been a market uptick from his rookie year. He was the quarterback number 31, played 10 games as a rookie. It was kind of the alternation with Ryan Fitzpatrick that year. Brian Flores was still the head coach of the team. Then in 2021, played 13 games, was doing much better, and ultimately I think that was the year that he got injured at the end of the year. They ended up getting Mike McDaniel that year as well, much more improved, but still not an elite quarterback, right? They trade for Tyreek Hill in 2022. They have Jalen Waddle. Things are looking much better for Tua. Finishes the quarterback number 15, so 31, 26, 15. Improving every single year. And then this last year he played a whole season, played 17 games, first time ever, all the seasons before that, 13, and 10 games played. So this last year he played a full season, finished as the quarterback number 9. He had 4,600 passing yards. Obviously a lot of that came on the back of Tyreek Hill, 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, pretty on pace. He's not going to be a super high touchdown type of quarterback in my mind. An outlier season for Tua is about 35 to maybe 40 in a really, really outlier season. But he's never going to be someone that's pushing for 50, 55 touchdowns in a season. His rushing numbers have stayed pretty consistent his entire time in the NFL as well. 36, 42, 24, 35, right around the mid-30s rushing attempts per year, around 100 rushing yards every season. Not much there. First 2 seasons, it was actually interesting. He had 3 rushing touchdowns, but nothing in the last 2 years. They don't want to get him involved with running the ball. And obviously with the scary head trauma that he had in a couple years ago, I understand that completely. You don't want to expose Tua to head trauma of any sort. You don't really want to risk his health because he's not been able to really stay healthy for an extended period of time except this last year. So it'll be interesting to see if they use him a little bit more on short yardage at the goal line situations. But when you have Raheem Mostert, when you have an amazing running game, Devin Achane, all these other guys that are so explosive, I just don't really see them ever going back to that with Tua. Maybe he gets the odd 1 or 2 in a season, but for the most part, I think it's going to mostly just go to the running backs, and they're going to try and keep Tua healthy. So that said, quarterback number 9 last year, I am not convinced that that's sustainable, and I think that he's kind of more of a sell for me for fantasy football. You look at all the guys that are going around him in the rankings right now, right? And Tua right now is rated as the quarterback number 16 overall, which is not a bad value for him. I think that it's pretty fair. But when you look at the guys that are going behind him, like just a couple to name, for example, Drake May, Jared Goff, JJ McCarthy, Kirk Cousins, who I love, Deshaun Watson, Bo Nix, Will Levis. I think all of these guys have a little bit more upside in the total threat. Kirk Cousins obviously does not have more upside than Tua. And I can understand the argument of not wanting to take Kirk Cousins because of the age. He's coming off the Achilles, everything like that. The weapons are similar, but I just think that Kirk Cousins is a lot safer. We've seen a more consistent top 12 finish from Kirk year in and year out than Tua. But you look at the guys like Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun Watson can get back to the form that he had with the Houston Texans, and I get it, that was a long time ago. I'm not banking on that, but if he can get back to that level, dude, he is going to absolutely smash for wide receiver or for quarterback number 22. You know, you've got Matt Stafford down here who's older, obviously, but he still has the potential to put up very relevant fantasy seasons for the next couple of years. Bo Nix, who's a rookie, who's been wowing everybody in Denver. He's got more of the mobile rushing upside. And obviously I'm projecting this for a standard quarterback league, just a 4-point passing touchdown, the 1 point for every 10 rushing yards for the quarterback, 1 for 25 for passing, kind of your standard. If you have different scoring stats, then it changes things a little bit. And I think that if you go to like 6-point passing touchdowns, it actually makes the argument even better against Tua because he's not going to be a high touchdown type of guy. He's a very efficient quarterback. He's going to get the ball to his playmakers and let them do a lot of the work. But that doesn't mean with the running game that they have down in Miami, he's going to have a lot of touchdowns passing. They're going to run the ball a lot, and they're going to be very good at it down there in Miami. So 6-point passing touchdowns, it's even worse for Tua. In my mind, 4 points, it keeps it a little bit more even for him. But with Tua, I would rather have Jared Goff. Jared Goff just got paid this offseason. We're not talking about him in this video specifically. I'd rather have Drake May. I just think that both of those guys have more upside than Tua does. You can argue that the weapons for Drake May obviously are not nearly as good as Tua. But long term, we're talking dynasty value here. I'd rather have Drake May. And Drake May's been doing very, very well in New England camp. Obviously he's playing more with the twos in kind of replacement for Jacoby Brissett. But it's only a matter of time before May is the starter for this team. And yeah, I just think that there's a few guys that are going ahead of Tua that I would be looking to move on from personally, or if I could package something with Tua, for example, to move up for one of those top guys like a Jaden Daniels or even a Trevor Lawrence. It's not even a big gap in value. Tua for Brock Purdy, for example. Like if you could get that 1-for-1, I would love that. But Brock Purdy is kind of a weird player right now because he doesn't have that long-term stability with the 49ers. Maybe you could use this new contract to leverage Tua to get Brock Purdy plus something small like a second round or a third round pick. And you're like, oh, that's not really that much of a return. I think that Brock's better than Tua as it is. So if you can get anything on top of Brock Purdy for a Tua, right, I would take that in a heartbeat. So Tua is someone that I'm looking to move on from for fantasy. And just for an example, I wanted to just kind of check a few, some of these trades that have gone through in the last couple of days for Tua, and specifically for Tua, what you could leverage with him to go and get some of these guys. I just talked about Jaden Daniels, for example. Someone in a one quarterback league traded Tua Tagovaiola in a 2026 first round pick for Jaden Daniels. Pretty good. I'd rather have the Jaden Daniels side there. You have in a 2 quarterback, someone gave Chris Godwin in a first for, it must have been a high first. It says it's 2024 first round pick. It doesn't say which one, but I'm assuming if you're giving Godwin in a first from this year, it's probably for a different quarterback than Tua, an upgraded quarterback, maybe a Jaden Daniels. But that's kind of the point, is if you can trade Tua for a Drake May plus or a Jaden Daniels, something plus, something small with Tua for Jaden Daniels, I think that it'd be very worth it for fantasy football. So just wanted to throw that out there for Tua. I like him. I do. I think he's a very good quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. I don't think he's a game breaker though. And for fantasy football, that's what you're looking for, especially even in Superflex or one quarterback. Doesn't really matter. Having Tua as your number one doesn't give me a lot of relief, right? When you've got guys like Justin Herbert, who didn't finish as a top 10 guy, you've got a lot of guys, Joe Burrow, you've got multiple, Anthony Richardson, Jaden Daniels, obviously. There's a lot of guys that are going to make a push for top 10, which is why I think that the number 9 finish for Tua in 2023 was not sustainable whatsoever. He's kind of at a peak value dynasty-wise. finishes quarterback number 9, just got paid. I would be leveraging that in every league that I could, trying to move on from Tua. All right, the other guy that got paid, and you can let me know your thoughts down below. You think I'm crazy? Would you rather keep Tua, or would you think that I'm onto something here and flipping him for something would be a little bit of a better path? Jordan Love was the other guy that got paid though, and he got a 4-year, 220, so extra $2 million per year, average of 55, where Tua was 53. $75 million signing bonus, 160. So Tua got a little bit more guaranteed, but a little bit more signing bonus for Jordan Love. Doesn't really matter. You're top of the market money wise anyway. But on the flip side though, how I talked about the Tua contract, right? Really cheap in this year, and then next year, immovable, 80 some million dead cap next year for Tua. But then in 2026, they had that little bit of a mini out where you could save $40 million by moving on from him. Then you could save a little bit more, a couple 30, 40 million the next couple of years. So basically front loaded the hell out of his contract. Whereas Jordan Love, he is going to be a Packer for a long time, man. They really believe in this guy, and you can tell by the contract. So $20 million cap hit this year, $107 million dead cap. Yeah, they're obviously not moving on from him this year. Next year, $29 million with an $87 million dead cap. So obviously not moving on from him next year. Wouldn't expect that. But here's the critical part. 2026, $36 million cap hit. So they're financially tied to Jordan Love for 3 years minimum. Dead cap of $59 million. So still, you're losing money to move on from Jordan Love in 2026. A lot of money to move on from Jordan Love in 2026. In 2027, you're saving a little bit. They have a little bit of an out there. $42 million cap hit. $31 million dead cap. And then in 2028, I don't think this contract will actually happen. Like, I think he'll either sign a new deal, and again, this is probably what the agent intended, but he's a $74 million cap hit in 2028 for $15 million dead. So you can save $60 million by renegotiating, re-signing, whatever you want to do in 2028. So obviously the difference between the Tua contract is it's a little bit longer. It's an extra year. It's the same amount of time, but he had this year as well because they re-signed him to the contract. So they have an extra year for him in here. They also built in a lot of void years into the contract as well, which spreads out the cap hit over 3 years on the back end of this thing. Doesn't really matter. Don't worry about that part too much. Doesn't impact anything in the contract. Biggest takeaway from this is they are financially tied to Jordan Love for the next 3 seasons. And for fantasy, I love that a lot. I was always someone that really liked Jordan Love. And when you look at what Jordan Love was in college, I thought that this guy was special. I really did. I thought when he was coming out in that draft class, that was 2020, man, it's been a long time. That's right when I started doing podcasts and rookie breakdowns and things like that. And I really liked what I saw from Jordan Love, but at the same time, I did not expect him to be a first round pick, right? I was kind of hoping that the Patriots would be able to take Jordan Love at the back end of the first that year, or in the second round or something like that. And ultimately the Packers moved up, went and got Jordan Love, and they decided to sit him behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 seasons. Didn't know what they were going to get. And all the rumors were that he was bad, blah, blah, blah. You know, you saw him in limited practice reps and didn't look great, whatever. Doesn't matter. Came out last year, a little bit slow for the first couple of weeks, but after about week 8 is when he really started putting things together against Minnesota, turned into a stud. He threw for almost 300 yards every single week, added a few yards rushing, but multiple touchdowns. From week 10 on, there was only 1 week where he didn't throw at least 2 touchdowns. From week 10 on, he threw a total of 3 interceptions. So very, very efficient for the last 9 games in terms of the touchdown to interception ratio. Really started to click in that department. And I think that the sky is the limit. He looked good in the playoffs. Obviously, they got booted out this year, I think by the Niners, if I'm remembering correctly. But at the same time, they had an amazing offseason. They really tried to hammer the offensive line. They have so many young weapons: Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, the other guy, Dontavian Wicks, that everyone's excited about. 2 killer tight ends, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. They signed Josh Jacobs to a large money deal, very, very well paid. Marshawn Lloyd, A.J. Dillon. So they build up the offensive line as well, like I said. They went whole hog on this offense, and it is setting Jordan Love up as a superstar for the foreseeable future. And it's just not fair, man. It's not fair. I'm a Bears fan, and the fact that in my entire lifetime, we've never had a good quarterback. Caleb, I'm praying to you, man. Please, I'm praying for you. But the fact that the freaking Packers, man, go from Bart Starr to Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, who's looking like he's set up to be a freaking superstar for the rest of his career. It's just not fair, man. It's not fair for the rest of the league. It's just, you got to stop that. You got to get out of here with that. But it's good for the Packers. You know, obviously Jordan Love, very young, 25 years old. The fact that he sat for 3 years, played a year, and he's still only 25, it goes to show how young he was and how raw he was coming out. But he's learned from the best in Aaron Rodgers, and he had a chance to really prove himself last year, and he did it. Threw for 4,100 yards with a new young offense. I think with all of these guys getting a year older, obviously, you know, the hotness, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, they were both rookies last year. Romeo Doubs is in year 3. Christian Watson is in year 3 and year 4. So it's just, I think all of these guys are just maturing together, and that's a great thing for Jordan Love, because as he gets more familiar with these guys, it's just going to go up. And the fact that he threw for 4,100 yards as a first year player, right, as out of the gates, and I get it, he had a little bit of experience on the bench and all that, but just killed it, man. He killed it. 32-11 touchdown to interception, 50 rushing attempts for 250 rushing yards. Now, you did not feel that in every single week, but he also had 4 rushing touchdowns. Some of those games, man, those extra 4 points from Jordan Love are just, they're so critical for fantasy football, right? And it's awesome to see that he has that in his wheelhouse as well. Just, I get it, it's not a lot, but 250 rushing yards is not nothing. So I do like that from Jordan Love as well. Now, what is his value going as? He's currently the quarterback number 10. Some of the trades that he's gone for in the recent couple of days. So Kirk Cousins fan, Jordan Love and Ramondre Stevenson's for Kirk Cousins and Travis Etienne in a 2 quarterback. I think I would rather have the Jordan Love side there, even though I don't really love Ramondre, but it's just kind of wild. Jordan Love in a 4th rounder for Bo Nix in a 1st, essentially. Jordan Love for a 2 early firsts in 2025, supposedly. Jordan Love and Brian Robinson for Caleb Williams and a 2nd rounder. So people like Jordan Love, and I think that he's a very good quarterback. I think that quarterback number 10 is very doable. He finished as number 5 quarterback last year with a young offense. I think what he did last year is extremely sustainable. Now, is he going to be able to finish top 5 every single year? No, but I do think he's going to finish top 10. When you're looking at the quarterbacks, the top 10 guys, you've got Mahomes, you've got Josh Allen, CJ Stroud. Dude, if I could trade CJ Stroud for Jordan Love plus, I would 100% do that right now. I love CJ Stroud, but I think that quarterback number 3 overall is just wild for him. I think that I would much rather have the stability long-term of Jordan Love with, you know, very similar skill sets, right? And you can get the plus on top of that. Jalen Hurts is going ahead of him, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is 1 injury away from dropping out of the top 10 and maybe even on the top 10 quarterbacks if he gets injured yet again. Anthony Richardson, I get, you know, the physical upside. Caleb Williams, I'd rather have him as well. Justin Herbert, Jordan Love. So that's the top 10 right now in terms of consensus rankings. You know, you've got guys like Jaden Daniels, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, who are probably going to be up there as well or pushing for it. You never know who's going to get injured either. Justin Herbert could have a little bit of a down year, but it's a very competitive top 10, and I still think that Jordan Love deserves to be in it. I think number 10 is perfect for him, and I'd be trying to get him because, you know, this is what he's consensus rated, but on Sleeper, he's going as the number 9 overall. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I don't feel like people like him as much as what a lot of people are drafting him as. Maybe, and you can let me know in the comments down below if I'm crazy on this, but it just feels like people are still more skeptical on Jordan Love than what he actually is for a fantasy value. But you can let me know again. I don't have a good read on this because I haven't actually been trying to get Jordan Love anywhere right now, but it just feels like nobody's really talking about him in terms of going to get him. Nobody's really talking about him in terms of, trying to move on from him. So maybe people are secret Jordan Love fans and they're really holding him that highly. But if you can get Jordan Love, man, I do believe that he has a lot of long-term stability. He's still young. He's only 25 years old. Again, there's some guys ahead of him that if I could tier down essentially from CJ Stroud, from Joe Burrow, guys of similar skill sets, even a Justin Herbert. I love Justin Herbert, but if people like Justin Herbert a lot more than Jordan Love, I'd be more than happy to tier down from Justin Herbert to Jordan Love and get a plus on top of that. Now, the plus obviously differs from league to league, but just throwing this quickly, and I'm not someone who loves to do this, but I'm going to throw this in a trade calculator really quickly just to see what the plus would have to be for and this, I'll do it for one quarterback just so it's a little bit more fair there. But CJ Stroud for Jordan Love, it's saying that you would have to, if you were doing it, if you were trading CJ Stroud for Jordan Love, you could get CJ Stroud, you could get Jordan Love in the 111 for CJ Stroud. I would do that happily. That's CJ Stroud for Jordan Love and, Xavier Worthy or Ladd McConkey or, your number one pick at running back, Jonathan Brooks or Trey Benson or whoever it may be. I just think that that's so much value. Now, obviously, if you up that to Superflex, it's going to be even more. In Superflex, going from CJ Stroud to Jordan Love, it's saying it would take the 108, so you could get the 108 plus Jordan Love for CJ Stroud. I would do that in a heartbeat. Again, you're talking even better value there at the 108. You're talking Brian Thomas Jr. You're talking potentially the tight end Brock Bowers. You're talking maybe in some cases like a Drake May. Like if you can get a Drake May and a Jordan Love, now obviously that's two quarterbacks, but in Superflex, obviously that's pretty valuable. So I think that it's worth it to kind of tier down just a little bit. And again, just saying that a Burrow, for example, if you were to throw Joe Burrow in there, going from Joe Burrow to Jordan Love in a Superflex, it's saying that an early second would get it done. So again, you're getting Jordan Love and, for example, Ricky Pearsall or Jalen Polk or whoever your early second round players may be. I think that that's pretty good value where you get a couple of years younger from Joe Burrow to Jordan Love, and you also get an extra piece on top of that with a little bit more health, longevity in Jordan Love. It just feels like. Now, obviously, Joe Burrow is going to be injured until he's not, but he just scares me a little bit on that. So that's my thoughts on these two guys for their dynasty value. Let me know what you guys believe in terms of their dynasty and their long-term value. Am I completely off on this, or is that in line with what you guys are thinking as well? So really quickly, I just wanted to double check. I saw that there was a chat here, and I'm just going to pull it up really quickly. But that said, I appreciate you guys checking out the video, and this is live, but if you guys want to, Pearsall looking buns at camp. All right. Yeah, I get it. He's been injured. He's got a hamstring injury. Give the man a chance. So sorry, that was the comment from watching this live. So obviously, if you guys aren't watching this live, you're watching the VOD of this. I appreciate you guys checking this out. Hopefully you guys can start to join us in these lives so you can comment as well, and I'll read your chats on the podcast, whether I agree with them or not. I like Ricky Pearsall, man. Give me a break. But no, we appreciate you guys. We really do. And we can't do this without you. So if you can subscribe to the channel, it just helps us out. Again, we love hearing from you guys. So make sure you guys are commenting, chatting, and hitting us up on Twitter with any questions, especially as we're getting into the season. There's going to be a lot of content that we're going to be pumping out. Dale's got a couple of weeks left until he's got to leave for baby duty. So I'm trying to get content out there, but it's going to be a grind after he's gone. That's for sure. I'm going to be missing him for a little while, and then it'll be my baby, and we'll figure it out. But yeah, that said, thank you guys for checking this video out. I do appreciate you guys. And until next time, have a good night.
And we all got dreams, we all want things, but what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be?